Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome the Town of Stellarton Council meeting January 13th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. start time. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda or additions?
Yes, Your Worship. I would like to add active Pictou County, 4F under reports. And I would also like to add one more item about the imminent closure of the northern pulp.
Okay, could I have a seconder for those, please?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you. I think we'll make the northern pulp number 9. The next council 10, open forum 11, adjourn 12. Excuse me. Next is the approval of the minutes from December 9, 2019. They're part of the package as well. They distribute electronically. Is there any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes as written, Your Worship.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councillor Pence, seconded by Councillor Campbell. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 3 is business arising for the minutes. Is there any business arising? Okay, we'll move on to item 4. 4A, Chief Mark Hobeck, Stellarton Police Service.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. You have the monthly report for December in front of you. I really don't have too much to add to that, other than to say we've had a bit of a staffing changeover. We had one of our term position employees accept a position with the RCMP, and a second new term start in December. Other than that, there's really not too much to add to that report.
Any questions for the chief?
Yes, one. Chief, how is our turnover in our fire department? Is it high? Are we losing a lot of people going to full-time from the term?
We have, currently we have still 2 term positions. The turnover since I've been here, this is the first, but as I understand it, in the last couple of years, we've had a little bit of a turnover with our term positions accepting full-time with other agencies. I've been working with the other agencies in Pictou County, including New Glasgow and Westville, and also with Truro, to open a continuing dialogue with each other as to who's out there and who's accepting jobs and who we're looking at to try to avoid that type of turnover. So we are taking steps to keep our people. Once they're here and want to be here in Stellarton, we'd like to hang on to them. So we are taking...
I appreciate that. One thing maybe, and I don't know if we can do that or not, but maybe it would be a worthwhile exercise to try and understand the cost of this turnover when it relates to, does it make more sense to hire one more officer and less term, or does it make more sense to keep those 2 terms and see? Sometimes the cost of the training and retraining and all of that, suits and gear might add up. So it could be a worthwhile exercise. I don't know if you would be able to track that, but maybe if you can, that would be great.
Yes, and I think we can track that, and you're absolutely right. The cost of the training piece, getting somebody up to speed to where we want them, as well as outfitting them and providing them the shifts to train them outside of the initial training, there is a cost associated to that. So that is something we can look at, and that's a very good suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Worship, can I speak on that? The other thing that we did, Councillor Wan, is, as you know, before we used to have term employees. Now, term employees will turn into full-time, part-time employees, which will give them benefits, and they'll get in the union. And that's another step to help encourage them to stay with us. Is what was happening is they're coming on as a term employee. They could be here 2-3 years, their term. They're not getting their benefits. They're not getting seniority. And another police department come along and offers them the option, and they leave. So what we've done now is we've gone, although we still have term, and that's a probationary period, they're hired on a term. They're looked at, chief looks at them, and if he's okay, then they're put right in as full-time, part-time with benefits and so forth and so on.
Any further questions for the chief? Okay, can I have a motion to accept this report, please?
I move to accept the chief's report.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councillor Knight, seconded by Deputy Mayor Campbell. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Item 4B is Emily Jones. She's not with us tonight, but the report is included. I just want to note that the outstanding orders went down from 8 to 7 over the course of the last month. The town took action on one of them and closed an order there, so we are moving on the on-site lease. Can I have a motion to accept the report, please?
So move, Your Worship.
And second that, your worship.
Moved by Councillor Pence, seconded by Councillor Knight. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you. 4C is Rachel McLean, Planner and Development Officer. She's on leave. 4D, Fire Chief Mike O'Sullivan.
Good evening, Your Worship, councilors. You have the monthly report for the month of December in front of you. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to thank you for the format and the description for the calls, the details all in there, so thank you very much for that. Is there any questions or further comments? No, can I have a motion, please?
So move, Your Worship.
Second that, your worship.
Moved by Councillor Pence, seconded by Councillor Knight. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you, Chief. 4E, Blaine Murray, Town Engineer.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. You have my reports as submitted. No major snowfall events to report in December, but we weathered our first major storm last week. This was led by our superintendent and lead hand, and of course the rest of the crew, and they did an excellent job, so very proud of them.
Christmas Day was, we had a water break. Boxing Day, we had a water break.
Yes, that's right, yeah, the Boxing Day.
We don't get through the festive season without having one water break.
Yeah, there was one last year this time too, that's right.
The cleanup crew did a great job at snow removal. Thank you very much for 4th Street. Excellent. Great job.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, Blaine, I would say the same thing. It's not only on 4th Street, it's all over town. There was a lot of snow down, and by far, I think this is the best time that I've seen it. So really thank you to you and to the team. They did a wonderful job. I appreciate that. With the resources we have, I think you guys are doing awesome. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
I think the whole council feels that way. Thank you for verbalizing it for us, Councilor Warren. As to a couple of questions, the capital list, the Public Works building in the East River water main, will they be done by March 31st?
The Public Works building will not be. It'll be more like April. In April, just going over that March deadline there. So there's a possibility it could be, but I'm anticipating more like April for that. And the water main should be.
Okay, thank you.
We're continuing with that actually, possibly this week to finish that off and make the tie-ins. So the directional drill portion of it was done just before Christmas, and now we have to make the connections on the end, on either end, and do our testing and such. So.
Okay. And we'll wrap up a very successful construction capital budget season once again. So thank you for that. We've got a lot of work done. And we already mentioned, but thank the crew for coming on Boxing Day and fixing the water main and doing such a great job with the storm. So thank you. Any further questions or comments? Can I have a motion, please, then?
So move.
I'll second.
Moved by Councillor Pence, second by Councillor Wand. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4F is Active Pictou County Report. It's included in the package. Any questions? Can I have a motion to accept it, please?
So moved.
I second.
Moved by Councillor Knight, second by Councillor Wand. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you. We're on to item number 5, which is correspondence. 5A is Municipality of Barrington.
This was sent to all municipal units in Nova Scotia, and it's from the municipality of Barrington, and they're looking for requests for support on their application to allow schools in Nova Scotia to offer a personal development credit for students that join a fire department and undergo the required training.
Read that. I think it's a great idea. I'll make it a motion here, Your Worship.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councillor Pence, seconded by Councillor Wong. There's no further discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5B, the Royal Canadian Air Force Club.
This is a letter from the Air Force, Royal Canadian Air Force Wing 110 Stellarton, to thank council for their grant for the facade program that they used to fix their wall.
They're a big part of our town, so we're happy to help them. And the wall looks great, and the rundell on the wall, the decal looks really nice too. So it's a big part of our main street. 5C, Healthy Pictou County.
This is a report, funder's report. So council has committed to 3 years, and this is just the progress that this committee is making on doctor recruitment to Pictou County.
Thank you. And 5D, Pictou County Routes for You. Sorry.
Sorry, Your Worship. Quick question on that. Maybe our clerk can find that out. I know that there is a doctor that came into the Pictou area. So how is it decided where that, doctor starts practicing, I guess? Because there's need here in Stellarton, I guess, or whatever. So I'm just trying to understand how does the doctor make that decision, or the doctor makes the decision that they would like to go in that area? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 5D, Pictou County Routes for Youth.
This is a thank you from the Pictou County Roots for Youth for the $75 donation that council made to their organization for the coldest night of the year.
Okay, thank you. We're happy to support them. Item 6, Committee of the Whole Report. And there was no meeting in December, so there's no motions to consider.
Your Worship, just one thing I want to pass on, it's not here, and it's just come to me, but and when we had the school kids in, we had a motion put forward to include the senior citizens. The students put it forward. I'm just wondering if we could send a letter to them and tell them that motion went through, just to keep them in the. Okay, thank you.
I think that's a great idea.
Sorry, I
that we
didn't
took
put it
the
on
word
them.
seriously, and we took action because of that.
Yeah, sorry I didn't put it on the agenda.
That's a good idea, though. Thank you. Item 7's bylaw. It's the first reading for a noise control bylaw. It's part of the package. Questions or comments from council? Or you want
So
to-
this was requested by council to look into this. It has been something that the police department has brought to our attention, that sometimes there are complaints of noise, but there's no enforcement because of no bylaw. So that's why this was brought forth for council's consideration.
Your Worship, we got a call last week about a dog that was constantly barking, disturbing the neighbors and ongoing in an area where we're having some issues. So I called the chief, and I believe he took care of it, but there hasn't been any feedback on it anyway. So that would be one point, I guess, of the noise bylaw, that we could control it. Because if a dog is barking, we just don't really have any control over it, I guess, unless we have a law for it.
Your Worship, it's the same thing. I've dealt with an issue on Claremont Avenue. I'm not really sure, Brian, if it's the same or not. But it was a constant barking, and our police chief at the time wasn't able to do anything. What I would like to do is I would like to send the email thread all to the new chief, and with the contact information of that resident, informing them that there's a new bylaw, and if you can follow up, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. And I do have a couple of questions on the bylaw. Thank you. Under general specific prohibition, number 7B, and that's about the dog being the owner of or having the care of a dog, other animal, allow persistent barking, howling, or other persistent noise making by a dog or other animal. So just want to be more clear on that point, is what constitute a consistent barking. Just maybe if there's we can find maybe we can put times, if it's more than 50 minutes, more than half an hour or something like that. I don't know if that's possible or not, but I thought it would to be a bit more specific because it could be subjective a little bit.
Yes, I can certainly look into that. I guess if a complaint comes through, a complaint is a complaint, and that can be brought to the department.
Okay.
So-
The other question that I have under general exemptions, employee or agents of the town, does that, agents of the town, does that mean also the fire department? Does it include the fire department? Or does the fire department fall under emergency vehicle?
That would not apply. Yeah, the fire department under emergency would not apply, obviously. I'm not sure.
So it says in offense enforcement and penalty, number 21, this bylaw may be enforced at the discretion of the town by any peace officer or policy officer. Do we have any peace officer or policy officer?
In our situation, that would be the Stellarton Police Service.
Okay. So that would be clear for anybody reading it, that it's police services. So would I be able to ask the police service if your constables would be able to enforce that if they, I know that in the past there were some bylaws like the fire pit bylaws they were not very familiar with. So I'm hoping that they would be familiar with this so that they would be able to enforce it. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. Also, with that bylaw, if an officer is out on patrol and hears what is amplified noise or even a dog barking consistently, traditionally with bylaws, police can't be disturbed by the noise. Okay. So by virtue of me hearing a dog barking at your home, I can't be disturbed while I'm working. The complaint would have to come from a neighbor or someone else that's hearing the noise, and then we respond to it, and then we can enforce it. So that's how that works.
Okay. Okay.
But yes, they will be well-versed in that, and we'll be looking to enforce it because we're going to have some things coming up as the weather gets warmer that's going to require their attention, yes.
Okay, thank you. And the last question I have on the schedule, exempt events and or services, number 4, Nova Scotia Spirit Company, an extension of daytime noise level to 2,400 hours, one night in July and one night in August, in addition to Stellarton Homecoming. I'm assuming that we have contacted them, and that's how we know?
That is correct. I did have a meeting probably about a year ago. They came in asking about a town noise bylaw as well and requested that kind of exemption, similar to the town of Pictou.
Okay, so that brings me to my question of the consistency perspective, that they came to us, so we accommodated them, but other businesses don't know that they could have come to us. Should we be sending a letter to the businesses on downtown, letting them know about this noise bylaw so that they are aware and they would be able to provide some feedback?
Correct. So this is a first reading of the bylaw. So the thing that I am required to do now is advertise that this is coming out, and if they have an opportunity to come, and if they would like to see anything added or anything like that, then this would go to before council's second reading for the final.
No, I understand. Thank you. What I'm thinking is maybe if there's a letter that can be sent to the businesses telling them that.
It's not required, but if you want me to, I can certainly do that.
I'm just thinking that, tell you the truth, a lot of people don't get the paper anymore, and now it's only once a week. And so I'm just thinking it could be a good idea. That's just my thought. What about everybody else think?
We don't have any existing noise issues with the current people?
No, we don't.
We can do.
I think we should just follow protocol as it is, put it in the newspaper. If we start making exceptions and we're opening up a can of worms where we go to pass another bylaw, we'll have to follow suit.
Okay.
Susan, we do put this online, don't we? The public meeting?
Yes, we do.
You also make it part of the newsletter too, maybe? New bylaws?
This would, the newsletter already went out, so the next newsletter wouldn't be until after this was passed. And keep in mind, council, that a bylaw can be amended. If at any time somebody wants to be added, we can certainly do that if council chooses.
And you can also apply for exemptions too, if their business does have a concern.
Perfect, thank you.
Did the Nova Scotia Spirit Company indicate why they wanted the one night in July and one night in August?
They're planning on doing some concert series, from my understanding.
And I also noticed the bylaw covers mufflers, so if you have complaints of loud little cars, and cover that off. How did you come up with the decibel numbers?
Those were discussed, we looked at similar bylaws, and between myself and the chief of police, we came up with those decibels.
There's a machine mentioned here, so we're going to purchase one.
Yes, we will.
Are they an expensive machine? I don't think they're very expensive at all.
No, they're not.
And how did you decide on the daytime hours? Yeah.
Again, that was taken from a similar bylaw. And this was also sent to legal as well.
Perfect.
I do need a motion to pass first reading.
So move.
Moved by
I'll
Councillor.
second that motion.
Moved by Councillor Pence, seconded by Councillor Knight. All those in favour, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. Most carried unanimously, so the bylaw is passed the first reading. Item 8 is another bylaw, first reading, the East River Low Flow Contingency Bylaw.
So again, any technical questions can be directed to the town engineer, but this is something that the town developed as a policy, but now it needs to be able to be enforced. I don't know if you have any questions, but they can be directed to the town engineer.
Yes, I do. What a shocker, right? The last section, Blaine, says that this contingency procedure requires the support and stewardship of all citizens in the town of Stellarton. It is a civic duty to be responsible citizens and to respect the environmental impact of water conservation. And I agree with it 100%. The question is, how many people do you think are going to abide by it?
Looking at Schedule A, offenses and fines.
So who's going to enforce it? Is it the police as well?
It'd be the police department.
If you don't want water meters, follow the
You
rules.
guys are going to be busy.
Just for clarification, this does not mean anything about water meters. There's no mention of water meters in this bylaw, one way or the other.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is the general public out there, if the next step after that would be water meters.
Your biggest line of defense for water conservation is water meters. That's your first line of defense.
Understood. So with the, on the bylaw itself, the last bullet on the first page, should that include radio? I know a couple bullets up includes via radio and social media.
Radio, communication, and social media, yeah.
And the last line is just social media, so we have radio in there too.
I believe we should have that in there, yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Do you guys have any other questions? Or? So it's going to be new this summer. This will be our first shot. Well, this is only our first pass of the bylaw yet. So, can I have a motion, please?
I so move.
Second that motion. Your worship, like I mentioned before, there has been times when they've stopped usage of water, sprinkling lawns or washing cars and so forth, and that was the only one they had when the water went low. I know I got caught up with it, and I was away on vacation. I come home, I didn't realize they had it. I had the police at my door.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. On the question, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, most carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Blaine. Item 9, Northern Pole.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So the provincial government recently have announced that Northern Pulp will be closing, and they've announced a $50 million fund to help with the transition. And we appreciate the money. It's not coming to us as Stellarton, it's coming to the province overall. But I don't think that's anywhere near enough. It's a drop in the bucket. So I would like to us as a council to send a letter to the government asking them for more steps to be done for our county. In the past, we've had multiple projects. Trento Works would be the biggest one that comes to mind that have folded, and we felt the effect of it for years afterwards. And I think this would be a similar situation, and we need to understand what the plan is and what we're going to do. This is going to have a big impact on Pictou County and the province, and we need to understand what we're going to do. $50 million is just kind of only going to fill the first little while, but then after that you have hundreds of families that... The biggest sector right now that's going to be affected is forestry. And they created a committee, and the best way to bury something is by creating a committee or a subcommittee. So I think we need to keep the pressure on the provincial government to try and understand what are the next steps and how we can help, right? Us as a town, anything that we can help, I'm more than willing, as either myself or as a council, to assist on the recovery and the advancement of Pictou County. Just need to understand their plan. So I would like to ask for that letter to be sent.
Can you please explain again what the letter would say?
I don't know, I spoke for the last 5 minutes, so I forgot what I said. Sure.
50 million, send a letter to government asking for more steps to be done for our county. We need to understand what the plan is. It will be a huge impact on the county and the province. The biggest sector that will be affected is forestry. Keep the pressure on the government, and any way we can help to assist, we will.
The question is, when you say assist, what do you mean by assist? We financially can assist. I don't. I hear your pain. I understand what you're saying. It's going to be a lot of people affected, and I agree. 50 million is not going to help them.
And that's a problem. So if you agree with me that's not going to be enough, let's tell the government it's not enough.
I have no problem with that, telling the government, as long as we're not part of the financial package.
We need to be part of the solution. And, I know that there was people that didn't want the mill, and the mill is gone. That's fine. So now let's understand what we're going to put. Theoretically, the contingency plan should have been done before the closure of the mill, but nobody have hindsight to try and think of a contingency plan before making a decision or asking for that decision to be made.
I don't want to argue that point with you, but that goes both ways.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Well, the government of the day told them 5 years ago, did they not?
Oh, I'm not arguing on behalf of the pulp here. It's everybody's fault. It's the government's fault. It's pulp, Northern Pulp's fault. It's the previous government's fault. It's everybody's fault. It's our fault that we did not do any contingency plan based on what could happen. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm blaming everybody.
What's the letter going to say again?
I'm not going
Basically, 50 million is not enough
to. I'm not
anymore.
going to repeat myself, Mr. Mayor. I think I repeated myself a couple of times, and there was some notes taken.
So basically, we'll say that the 50 million is not enough, that we want more, and we want to know what your next steps are.
We need to understand what the plan is, because right now it's not very clear.
That point, Councillor Lewan, I do agree with. There doesn't seem to be a clear map or plan in place. And I do agree with you. I think we should send a letter of support.
So the letter would say basically what are the next steps for the provincial government in regards to northern pulp? Is that what? I'm being sincere in my question. I want to know exactly what the wording would be. Is that agreeable, Councillor One? The next steps, is that?
So let's be clear here. What is the letter?
Yeah, that's what I would like to, before I sign off on it.
I would recommend that the clerk draft a letter and send it to all council, and council can provide feedback on if anything that needs to be added or subtracted.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. So we need a motion for that? So moved by Councillor One, seconded by Councillor Pence. On the question, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, most carried unanimously, thank you. Item 10's next council meeting, Monday, February 10th, 2020, 5:30 p.m. here at the council chambers. Item 11 is open forum. Does anyone like to speak at the open forum? Hearing nobody, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn, please. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
So moved.